So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually change the title of this from cause of suppression, since we just discussed that, to
duration of recovery.
So the questions that I got in regards to recovering the metabolism, since we just discussed how the metabolism became suppressed, are how long does it take to repair the metabolic adaptation? How do you know when you've reached your metabolic ceiling? When do you know when to stop reversing? And how long do you stay in that caloric surplus? What I'm going to do now is pretty much explain all of those questions in one explanation. Okay? So as we discussed previously, let's say for instance at the end of your fat loss phase, your metabolic rate is down here. Now we're going to keep this general population first, and then we can transition that into the more of the physique oriented athlete. But fat is going to be roughly, around there, and food is going to be very low. Now, most of the time when clients reach out to me, they come to me and they are in this exact position here, exhausting themselves, doing lots of cardio, very low caloric diets, and their fat mass is still, I'd say at average or a little bit higher than average. So what do we do, and how long does it take to recover from that? I will say that typically the longer somebody has been in this fat loss phase or has been in this starvation phase, because I won't even call it a fat loss phase any longer after 4 to 5 months of being super low calorie, because you have lost the ability to lose body fat because you're not treating your body in a way that it needs to be able to work with you. You are no longer working with your body, you are now working against it, and it will not allow you to lose any more body fat. So what do we do? Only option at this point is to slowly begin to take food back up. Okay? And if we do it in a structured way, you notice how it's like kind of like stairs. Okay? Now as we increase calories, metabolic rate will stay suppressed for a little bit of time, because think about how long it took to get you to this point. It took a long time to suppress your metabolism enough so that, your body's barely even living. It's definitely not thriving. It's in a starvation state. So how long does it take for that to turn over? What I've seen in the past is usually we will have an initial weight gain, okay? Because the metabolism is still low here after, let's say, 1 or 2 weeks. So because we've increased calories and metabolism is still low, what we have is a fat gain of usually, 4 to 5 pounds or so, somewhere around there. However, once metabolic rate decides, okay, I'm tired of her starving me, I'm tired of him starving me, they're feeding me now my body can start to work, it can start to move, it can start to actually function the way that it's supposed to. It will start to follow them calories, man. It'll start to increase over time. Now, usually after this initial 4 to 5 pounds of fat gain, sometimes we will see a little bit more fat gain. And then usually what's going to happen is it will start to kind of taper off and follow. And then you end up in this position here, at the end of it all here. So metabolic rate has increased. Food has surely increased so that we could force the stimulus for the metabolic rate to follow. And fat has increased. Okay? Now, keep in mind that this is general population, and usually when you're on this side of the board, when fat loss was stalled, metabolic rate was snail pace, food was starvation. What we have here, what actually occurs in this state is that fat, the fat in your body, the fat cells, will actually start to mass produce. Okay. In a starvation state, your body has the ability to start to create more fat cells because it understands that the next time it becomes fed, it has to store in order to survive. So because we start to feed, of course, fat is increased because we have been in starvation for so long, built more fat cells. Now we are adding fat to those fat cells. But again, over time, usually what I see is the fat gain will taper off, okay? So now what we really have to focus on here is putting ourselves in the best position possible to restart another fat loss phase. One of the questions was, how long does it take to repair a damaged metabolism? And I will preface this by saying that I don't think damage is the right term to use. Suppression is a better term. Typically when we associate the term damage with something, we think that it is at the point of no return, it's not coming back. If something is suppressed, it can be optimized, okay? And that's exactly what we're trying to do here. We're trying to take this suppressed metabolism and optimize it to set this person back up for a successful fat loss phase in the future. Now, the amount of time that it takes to fully recover metabolic rate depends on the amount of body fat said client is okay with gaining post starvation state, okay? So into their reverse. If we increase food very quickly out of the gate, okay, and then maybe we increase it again, and then we stabilize at maintenance level, okay, or what we think to be the client's optimized metabolic potential, okay, you will see an increase in fat faster, okay? And again, because metabolic rate has not had the time to catch up to food. But once it does, then fat mass will kind of taper off. And now we have all things back in line. The other way to do that is to take a slower reverse. So you have a slow reverse and maybe you have we can call it an accelerated reverse. Okay, so where a slow reverse would be very much like this. Bump, 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 bump. Just like that. Now what we have here is slower fat gain. Right? And a quicker, and the metabolism, kind of can follow as it. Okay, but if you notice, at the end of the reverse, usually we're always ending up in the same area. I mean, this is where we want to be. You know what I mean? That's where we want to be at the end of that process. Now, again, the duration of that process will definitely depend on how long you dieted over here. So for some of you females who, or even male, I mean, I've worked with males that have done this too. I just see it a lot more in females, is that you will spend 20 years, 10, 20 years, just dieting, doing yo-yo diets. So you could imagine that how long would it take you to reverse of starving yourself? How long will that take? It'll take a long time, okay? The next question is, how do you know when you've reached your metabolic ceiling? Well, pretty simple. So once we have progressively gone through, I'd say about 6 to 8 months of a reverse diet, Usually we've reached that metabolic ceiling. The area in which you can no longer add calories because you will consistently gain weight. Okay? We want to completely optimize the metabolism, but we don't want you to gain unnecessary fat loss. Okay? We want to recover you as quick as we can while keeping your body composition better than it was, before you started your first fat loss phase. But once it's at that level to where you realize if I add any more calories, I'm just going to continuously gain weight, that's pretty much where you've reached your metabolic ceiling. Now, again, I will say that typically for most women, that's between 12 and 15 in regards to where their metabolisms are when they start with me. But then, after we've kind of tried to optimize those things, we can usually get them up around 18 to 2,000, 2,200 calories. And what I think is that in the grand scheme of metabolism, you're actually working with kind of like a range, okay? Like a range of metabolism. How do you know when to stop reversing? Pretty much the same thing applies to what I just said. Once you've found your ceiling per se, ride that out for as long as you can. As long as you can maintain your sanity from a physiological and a mental, more importantly a mental perspective. As long as you can maintain your sanity, I would recommend you ride that reverse out, or just living, thriving in that caloric surplus for as long as you can. It's no secret to any of us bodybuilders who will do a few shows in a year, take 1 to 2 years off, and then come back again and compete a few years later. That is why, in most cases, a lot of pro-natural bodybuilders are able to achieve such great levels of stage conditioning. Even the females who are they might compete every couple years, because it takes that long to make substantial progress. However, it takes that long to allow your body to fully recover and to not resist fat loss. So I would recommend riding that thing out for at least a year. Little serious talk here. When I first got into coaching and the reverse dieting became popularized, everybody wants to diet. Everybody wants to lose body fat, and I can completely understand that, because the amount of confidence that comes with that, when you walk with your chest higher, you're more outgoing, you want to get out, you want to see people, you want to interact, you want to go to the gym, you want to train. It's very motivating to be at that very lean, fitnessy look, and I can completely understand. However, typically that is not what's going to be healthy for you long term. Trying to maintain that will make you end up somewhere around here. When we enter a fat loss phase, okay, we have to have a plan of action going into it. We have to know how we're going to go about getting back on track and reverse dieting back out. Now, if dieting is done in these kind of cycles here, with fat mass being here, okay, we'll start with metabolic rate being here, and we'll start with food being here. Now, as food comes down, okay, metabolic rate will come down, okay, and fat will come down, and we reach our goal. We reached our goal, okay? However, this being a fat loss phase block, what we want at the end of this reverse is to not have fat go back to as high as it was before, okay? So let's say from a graph's perspective here, we will have fat maybe stop here, okay? We'll have fat stop there. Now, where is fat here at the end of this reverse in comparison to where I started? That That's what we got to look at. So let's say, for instance, here at the end of this reverse, I'm 5 pounds less with the same metabolic rate, eating the same amount of calories that I was when I started. So now, over here, I'm eating the same, my metabolism's optimized, and I have 5 pounds less fat at the end of my reverse. Okay? And you stretch that out. Now think about when we start this over again, and now we're starting with 5 pounds less fat. So when you go into your next dieting phase, you'll have 5 pounds less fat to lose, and you'll be able to get leaner over time. So over the course of time, we will be able to maintain a leaner body composition while having an elevated or optimized metabolic rate and food intake. I really hope that this helped in regards to how I want to see your fat loss phases go, and how the reverse dieting can be a big role in recovery, and a little light on how the general population diets and how we can try to help people avoid falling into that trap. Thank y'all so much for all your comments and everything, and all of your nice emails, just telling me how much you appreciate the videos, because that gives me a lot of motivation to want to make more of these. So thank y'all very much. I'm going to try to get this video out as soon as possible. I appreciate you. Thank you. Bye.